insights. Also, a few things before we begin. If anybody's on Twitter, if you want to follow Colleen on Twitter, @Yelp Orlando is her Twitter handle. So if you want to stay up to date with the things that she's doing here in Orlando, you can do that. If you want to follow me on Twitter, @DarnellJustin is my Twitter handle. We host a series of webinars every other week. We call it Webinar Wednesday, kind of like our social media radio show that we do. In fact, tomorrow, if you want to check it out, we've got a business owner from Austin, Texas, who's going to be talking about how he used social media to grow his business. If you want to tweet anything that we talk about today, you can use the hashtag Yelp Townhall. And then, most importantly, one of the first questions that I get from business owners whenever I talk to people is, there's no phone number on Yelp. How the heck do I get in touch with somebody at Yelp? So the way that you do that is by going to yelp.com/contact. We're primarily email-based. We've got an entire team of people, our user support team, that handle all of those inbound requests. Turnaround time maybe 2 to 3 business days, just depending on how many things they have in the queue. But if you need help with technical issues, or if you have questions about reviews, which we'll definitely talk about, you can reach out to the user support team again by going to yelp.com/contact. And we can definitely put this information back on the screen later. But I think it's important to just sort of set the table for the agenda. And so we're going to talk a little bit about kind of Yelp 101. Just by show of hands, though, how many people here are not actively managing their business owner's account on Yelp? So if you are not managing your account. Okay, cool. So we'll cover some of the just quick basics of Yelp background, what it is. We'll dive into a little bit of the stuff that you could do with your free business owner's account. And then we'll really turn it over to the stars of the show today. We've got an awesome panel that we put together consisting of business owners here from Orlando, as well as members of our elite squad. And then we'll open it up for Q&A for you all to ask us questions if you have any, and then we'll also have some time for networking at the end of the event. But just to give folks some quick background on why Yelp exists, at its core, our mission is pretty simple. We want to connect people with great local businesses. We're a relatively young company. We were founded in 2004 by Jeremy Stoppelman and Russell Simmons in San Francisco. Also, in case anyone's wondering, that's Russell Simmons, the engineer from PayPal, not from Run DMC. I get that question from time to time. But you know, they wanted to create a local city guide to provide consumers with useful information. So we started out in San Francisco back in 2004. You fast forward now, as of Q4 of this year, we had about 86 million unique visitors on average per month coming to the desktop site. And we've got 36 million local reviews and counting. Now, there's some pretty important information here to take a look at. If you look at the bottom of this slide, starting over there with that 85% number, this is a survey that was done by Bright Local looking at consumer behavior in North America, Canada, and the UK. What they found is that in the last 12 months, 85% of consumers said that they turned to the internet to find a local business. Now, that probably seems obvious. We know that most people aren't using the yellow pages now to find businesses. A lot of the search happens online. The interesting thing, if you look at that number in the middle, the 70% figure, that's a study that was done by Nielsen, and they asked consumers, what do you trust when you're searching online? 70% of consumers said that they trust consumer opinions posted online, so they're using that information to make a buying decision. And then if you look at Yelp, that 64% number there on the other side of the screen, 64% of Yelp users come from a household with an annual income of 100K or higher. So key takeaway there, people have money to spend. A lot of consumers are turning to Yelp in large numbers to figure out how they're going to spend that money. So for you as a business, it makes sense for you to have a presence on the site. But there are a lot of moving parts to Yelp. We'll definitely get to a Q&A at the end, but I can take one if you have a quick question.
Do you know what percentage of the 64% are, say, in Central Florida?
That's a good question. This is for the entire U.S. I don't have city-specific demographics, but it is for the entire U.S. Another important thing to look at, though, is the mobile audience, right? So I just told you we have 86 million people per month come to the desktop site. Another 9.5 million people on average using the mobile app. How many people here have a smartphone? Okay, so everyone in the room. The interesting thing, so almost everyone. The interesting thing is, you know, about 9 million people using the mobile app, but 45% of all searches on Yelp are now coming from mobile devices. So, I mean, it's really a good indicator of where search is going. And we find that people on mobile have a greater sense of urgency. In fact, every second now, a call is being generated to a local business, or GPS directions are being mapped out to a local business through one of our apps. But what makes Yelp different? Obviously, we weren't the inventors of the review site concept. We've really focused, though, on developing a vibrant offline community in every city that we have a presence in, and that's what really sets us apart. So we've got people like Colleen in 130 major markets around the world. And so, as Colleen mentioned, she's kind of the face of Yelp here in Orlando. She does a lot of events with consumers, and really sort of the genesis for this town hall concept came with a meeting that we had with our Small Business Advisory Council about a year ago. They said, you know, you guys do a lot of offline events for Yelpers, consumers, but you've got tons of business owners out there that have questions, so you guys should definitely do some offline events for business owners as well, so people can kind of connect. And so that's where the town hall concept comes into play. But let's shift gears a little bit and talk about some common online myths. These are some things that I hear pretty regularly. So, you know, they are, you know, one, that reviewers are all anonymous online. Two, that consumers are more likely to share negative experiences versus positive. And that three, that most online reviews are fake or spam. So let's quickly walk through those. You know, first, misconception number one, if you're going to review a business on Yelp, you have to create a profile to do that. You can click through to anybody's Yelp profile. You can see a lot of information about them. For example, this is a Yelper on our Elite Squad, so you can see photos of this person. You can see who they're friends with. You also get information about their rating distribution, which is there at the bottom, that tells you how positive or negative a particular Yelp user skews. And that's a good segue into misconception number two, which is that consumers are more likely to share negative experiences instead of positive. That's actually not the case. In fact, on Yelp, about 80% of the reviews are 3 stars or higher. And it makes sense. Most people just talk about their experiences that they have with businesses day in, day out. Here's a really important tip. Think about how you look at your review content and think about how consumers might be looking at that differently. What I mean by that is, in talking to business owners across the country, what I found is that most business owners know all of their negative reviews by heart. They know word for word what they say, the date and time they were posted, and who posted those reviews. In talking to consumers, we find that Yelp users do not look at reviews in the same way. Most people are looking at overall trends, or looking at what the majority of people are saying about a business, and they're using that information to make a business. So we'll definitely dive into that during our panel. Misconception number three, that most online reviews are fake or spam. You know, this is actually a greater issue just on the internet in general. So very early on, when we were creating Yelp, we understood that there's a certain behavior pattern that exists. And that's that there are people that come on to review sites and create fake profiles to spam themselves or spam competitors. You may even have situations where people go out and buy fake reviews to pad their rating. And so because this type of activity happens on the internet, we decided that we wanted to take a pretty aggressive approach to try to filter out as much of that as possible. And that's where our review filter comes into play, and we'll definitely talk about that during the Q&A as well. But, you know, quick background, it's basically a security system that's designed to make sure that we're displaying the most useful information, useful review content on a given business's page. And this is a good example of why we have something like that on the site. This is a story about a gentleman out in Texas who admitted that he hired somebody to write 200 fake reviews for his business across multiple sites, including Yelp, City Search, and Google Places. And you can see this is a direct quote from the article. It says, "Every fake review the Texan bought was flagged by Yelp's algorithms. Those fraudulent reviews remain up on the 7 other sites." So, good example of why we have that on the site, but we'll definitely dive into that a bit more. And also, for folks who have not claimed your page yet, for the handful of people who aren't actively managing your page, you definitely want to unlock your business owner's account. You can do that by going to biz.yelp.com, and we'll also put this information back on the screen later. But once you open your business owner's account, the benefit of doing that is you can do things like track traffic to your page, so you get a good sense of how many views you're getting from mobile or desktop users. You can also track things like mobile calls to your business, click-throughs to your website, GPS directions mapped out. There's a lot of data in there that can really give you a clear picture of the impact that your Yelp presence is having on your business. You can also respond to your reviewers, which is absolutely something that we recommend that everyone gets in the habit of doing. You just want to think about what your customer service policies are for face-to-face interactions and apply that same logic to written responses. And then finally, if your Yelp listing looks like this, you want to add content to your page and make it look like this. And you know, we can definitely dive into sort of the value of having content on your page, because again, people look at a lot of different things when they're searching for businesses.